So last night we did a X Spaces and we talked about, is Ozempic Maha. So we talked about is the use of GLP-1s beneficial for health? And people had varying ideas, and I thought it was a fantastic space. We're going to do them. Sean and I are going to do them every Monday at 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central. And so it was great. One of the things that we talked about that I wanted to kind of reiterate was how damaging visceral fat is. So real quick, you've got the subcutaneous fat, which is the love handles and the stuff on your back of your arms, your legs, and stuff like that. Visceral fat is the fat that is inside your core. It's the stuff that's around your liver and between your lungs and around your heart and that type of stuff. That fat is quite a bit different than the adipose tissue, the subcutaneous fat, the stuff that's on the outside. Visceral fat is actually metabolically active. It produces cytokines. Those cytokines produce significant inflammation and create all sorts of other problems in the body. We see massively higher levels of sleep apnea. We see much higher levels of arterial plaquing, heart attacks, strokes, and overall systemic inflammation. Now, here's the funny thing. Systemic inflammation holds insulin levels high. When insulin levels are high, you cannot burn fat. High insulin levels block glucagon, and glucagon is the hormone that tells your body to burn fat. So having high visceral fat can also restrict your body's ability to burn fat and the visceral fat. So getting rid of visceral fat is really, really important. That's one of the things that if you're going to look at a GLP-1, whether it's semaglutide, which is Ozempic and Mounjaro, tirzepatide, or retatrutide. Reta is my personal favorite because it's a GLP-3. It does a lot of other cool stuff. But that's one of the things we're looking at primarily. We've got a lot of people out there who have sleep apnea, who have significant issues with inflammation, joints hurting all over, fatigue, they sleep poorly, like all sorts of stuff. It's even tied to low testosterone levels. So getting rid of that visceral fat is really, really important. And yeah, you can, in time, break a lot of it down with really good diet and exercise. The problem is that, like I said, depending on how much where it's holding that insulin and how it's creating insulin resistance issues in the liver, it can chemically make it to the point where diet and exercise don't really affect it the way it should. This is one of the reasons that I tell people that the GLP-1s are a good tool to use. Now, you don't have to stay on them forever. There's some indication that people might want to stay on Reta forever or for long periods of time. And I can go into that later. But the big issue is that if you can start tracking whether you're using a DEXA or a Hume body pod or whatever, more or less where your visceral fat is, and then actively do something to remove and destroy and get rid of that visceral fat, it will significantly increase your health all the way across the board. Just look up visceral fat, look up, what disease processes are tied to visceral fat, how dangerous is visceral fat. Just look that up and kind of go through it. If you're like, oh yeah, these are bad things, especially if you look it up and you're like, oh, these are tied to heart attacks and strokes and arterial plaque. In my family history, I've had arterial plaque and stuff like this. Yeah, I would really start working with somebody to pull that stuff off. Like I said, Reta and the GLPs are great at it. But the biggest thing that I want people to understand about all the GLP-1s is that a lot of the problems you've heard about muscle wasting, about all sorts of issues with them, are mostly provider problems. You cannot just take a GLP-1 and then not eat and expect that your body's good things are going to happen. You're going to lose a lot of muscle tissue. You're going to lose a lot of nutrient function, and those nutrients run everything in your body. So, if you're not increasing bile flow, you might have bile issues. You might have pancreatitis. If you're not increasing nutrient density, whether you're eating it or supplementing it, you're going to have muscle loss. You're going to have metabolic shutdown. You're going to have bone density loss. You're going to have all kinds of problems. So this is one of those things I keep talking about where you can't give metabolic tools to people that think the body runs on calories. It doesn't. It just doesn't. That's where a lot of this harm is being done. So if you guys check it out, if you guys have the visceral fat, you got to do something about it. Work with somebody who knows what they're doing on it. You're going to have to do some type of exercise stuff. You're going to have to change your diet a little bit, most likely. Just kind of go in with the idea that you're going to have to move some and you're going to have to change your diet a little bit. And if you can do that, then you can be successful. But it is really, really dangerous to eat that visceral fat. Please look that up. If you guys have any questions, hit us up. We can kind of help you get through it. As the new year starts coming up, if you're like, I want to get healthy, using a GLP-1 for a little while, or a GLP-3 like we're using for a little while, could be very, very beneficial. I've had a lot of people that, when you get on the system properly, the nutrition, the whole thing, including the GLP-3s, it's a matter of time as far as being type 2 diabetic. The insulin sensitivity that is almost immediately regained in the liver is really, really, really impressive. And then you just got to wait till the rest of the tissues kind of calm down and heal. We had a patient who was in who she couldn't break her blood sugar under 190. They did everything. Metformin, they did everything they could except for give her insulin to bring it down, and nobody could figure it out. And so we put her on, the GLP-3, and it took her, I think, 10 weeks. And she came in and she was like, my blood sugar has been 135. So it went from 190 to 135. And, she lost about 10, 12 pounds, but that was the big thing. So her type 2 diabetes is now managed when it was never managed before with these tools. So when we look at just general fat, visceral fat, diabetes, PCOS, endometriosis, PMS, a lot of these things are tied to metabolic function and they're tied to insulin sensitivity. We've had lots of women come back in and be like, hey, used to have the worst periods in the world. Used to have horrible endometriosis pain. Used to have horrible fibro pain. Now it's calmed down or completely gone away. So if you're dealing with those sort of things, these metabolic tools used properly can be really life-changing. And if you've got kids who are 13, 14, 15 years old and have a lot of high visceral fat or have horrible menstrual cycles or, are having sleep apnea or trouble breathing, I would definitely look at this, because visceral fat in kids is just as bad as visceral fat in adults, if not worse, because you're developing. You don't want to develop with all these issues. So keep that in mind, kind of take a look at it. And I would highly recommend that you get with somebody who knows what they're doing on these and at least get some information on them, because this is a thing that could really change your life and really change your health. You guys have a fantastic day. I hope to see you at the next X Spaces Monday at 8 Central, 9 Eastern.